Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 8 of the Split Screen Media Podcast. With me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Chris Blankenship.
Hey, everybody.
And our third returning guest, I think.
Third.
The magnificent Seabass. How you doing, bud?
Good. Thanks for the introduction. That was heartwarming, I guess. I liked Chris's better, but we'll rock with it.
Did I introduce you last time?
No, I mean, like, I like Chris's introduction, like that Connor did.
Like what I said about him. Yeah. It wasn't as elegant for you. I'm sorry. It should have been. You're the guest, and I apologize. But regardless, let's jump right into it. And the first thing I want to talk about is Netflix. So Netflix has had its fair share of controversies the past couple weeks, I think is safe to say. There was that one about, it was like the girls, like the pageant girls or whatever. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I think it was called Cuties.
Cuties. Yeah.
Oh, but with those kids?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my God.
So they were advertising it in kind of a more sexual way than I think the show actually was about. But they got in a lot of trouble for that, and obviously, I think they took it off and they apologized, all that. And then recently, I think it was either a week or 2 weeks ago, they had another controversy that I want to talk about with Dave Chapelle. So for anybody who doesn't know Dave Chapelle, obviously one of, if not the greatest comedian of all time. And before he did stand up, or kind of, with his early stand up intermittently, he had a show called The Chapelle Show, which was on Comedy Central, aired for like 2 or 3 seasons. And Netflix recently put it up on Netflix for everybody to, who subscribes can see it. And with that, I think it was only up for like a couple days before Dave Chapelle actually requested that it be taken down. And the reason for that is that he doesn't own the Chapelle Show. He doesn't own the rights to that show after he left. I think it's I want to say it's either Warner Media or Viacom. One of those two owns it, and he doesn't receive any money from it going on Netflix. He doesn't receive any money from it going on HBO Max. No royalties, nothing. And he came out and said that, first of all, he asked Netflix to take it down because he has a pretty good relationship with them. He's done, 4 or 5 specials in total with them. And he said, please take this down. I don't make any money from this. And they, accepted. They took it down. And then he, I think it was like just a quick little monologue after his SNL appearance. I believe he was in Texas. He said that if you liked me, or if you ever liked me, do not watch the Chapelle Show until I see the money from it. So do not watch that show if you're a fan of mine. And I guess I want to know what you guys think about all of it. Like, do you think Netflix did the right thing by taking it down? Do you think it's right for him to request that fans not watch stuff that he did, even though you may enjoy it? What do you guys think?
Seabass,
All right, well, yeah. I think that I would assume it's justified. So it's after he left that he didn't see the money for it.
Yeah, I believe, and I could be wrong here, but I think he cut his contract short because they were going to offer him upwards of like $50 million to come back and do another season of the Chapelle Show. And that's when he essentially not only left the Chapelle Show, but left show business and kind of left Earth. Like he moved to Africa, and he disappeared completely for a number of years. And then he came back. Now he obviously lives in Ohio and sort of, I guess, commutes back and forth with from Ohio to LA to do his stand-up specials and do his Netflix comedy shows. But for the most part, he's remained pretty under the radar after that. But yeah, that was essentially when everything went down, is after the Chapelle Show was canceled.
Yeah, I could stand behind him on this because it was like his baby, and obviously that show was hilarious. And since he's not making any money from it, that's just not fair. Like, not even they'd even include him in the talks of saying hey, we're gonna put your show on Netflix. It was just hey, we're talking with the people that own it now. We're gonna put it on Netflix, and that's just really shitty to know, especially since Netflix is a huge platform. So people who haven't seen the Chapelle Show will definitely see it then, and they'll be like, holy fuck, this is hilarious. And they'll get more streams, and then who knows what that lead to. But if Chappelle's not going to see a single like dime of that money, that sucks. But he also gets the recognition. Like people start to watch his specials after that too, after being introduced to the Chappelle show. But
I
like
was
you
to
said,
say,
he's already one of the greatest. So like, if you don't know Dave Chappelle, then you're
Right.
living under a rock.
so Hannah had never seen Dave Chappelle, and when the Chappelle show went on Netflix, we watched episode or two together, and then we watched his. I forget which special it was. The one where he's in like the green jumpsuit.
That's Sticks and Stones, I think. That's
Yeah,
his-
I think it was Sticks and Stones is what the title was. But she loved that one, like both the stand up and the sketch show. She loved that thoroughly. But yeah, I think it's kind of scummy if he's not making any. But I wonder like what the contracts look like, because like sometimes if you are an actor or you are like in Chappelle's shoes, then in the contracts you can get cut, like, so you get so much money to do the show and then it's done and it's owned by whoever. But you could have like royalties where you make a certain percentage of ideally the gross profit off the show or however many views or whatever. But I'm curious what the contract was that he signed and if he has any like real leverage to get that show back or any money off the show anymore.
I don't know. Definitely back then he didn't. I think when he severed ties with Comedy Central and again, whoever it was, I think it was Viacom, but whoever the the main studio head was, he basically relinquished all rights to see any money from that show, and then disappeared. So then he probably wouldn't have as much power to get something like that back. Now, I don't know. It's definitely more realistic that he might be able to. If he and everybody else who enjoys his stuff makes a big enough stink about it, then he definitely might. He might be able to get that back.
So Netflix pulled it willingly.
They did, yeah. It was. He just asked them. He was like, "Hey, listen, I don't know if he did the same thing for HBO Max or if they obliged him, but yeah, he was just like, hey guys, I'm not making money from this. This isn't my show anymore. Like I don't claim to own this. Can you please take it off your platform?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So
Yeah, I mean that definitely that gets in Viacom or Warner Media, whoever you said owns it. It gets in their ear. They notice that things like that get taken down and a stink is raised.
it's interesting because in his one of his more recent specials, I believe it was the bird revelation. At the end of it, he talks about how he makes this comparison between pimps and prostitutes, and how like a tactic used by pimps is to is to give the prostitutes money that's already theirs, but make them think that it's coming from them. So like make it seem like they're getting extra, even though they're not, even though it's their money to begin with. And he talks about this. He tells this whole story from this book that he read about sort of that life. And you're like, where the fuck is he going with this? And it goes on for a good like 15 minutes. And then right at the end of it, he goes, and that's what it was like to work with Comedy Central. And he ends the special. And it's like this huge bomb that he just like he's obviously a genius and he's able to wrap all these things together in a comedic way.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of those things I was like, holy shit. And that it clearly is his relationship still, as as tumultuous as it is with those companies. So I feel bad for him.
But showbiz, baby.
That is showbiz.
That is
That's
showbiz.
just how it is. Like, especially when you're like, I don't want to say like a young up and comer, but like if you're not like haven't like blown up to the level you are like he is now, you'll take anything to like get there. So that's what they prey upon. It's like, hey, this guy's really fucking funny. If we pick him up first, like he's just gonna be eternally grateful to us, like for the first time, because it's like, hey, this big studio that everybody knows about wants my stuff. So like you're just willing to do it to get the popularity. So it's the business. They'll just use and abuse you however they can.
Yeah, 100%. And it was one of those things where it made me think about if anyone else had asked Netflix to do that, would they have done it? Like if, I love Tom Segura, but if Tom Segura had come up to Netflix and been like, hey, can you guys take this down? Like, does he have that same type of pull and influence that someone like Dave Chappelle has? Like, would people
It could just be a good relationship.
Yeah. but it also is a, you know, I think you're definitely right. It's a good relationship that he has with them, but is it also because Dave Chappelle is this massive icon? And, you know, if they had said no, I'm sure he would have said something about it. He would have said something publicly like, you know, fuck Netflix or whatever. And then like, it's probably more trouble than it's worth. But, you know, if some lesser comedian asked to take their stuff down that they don't own anymore, I don't know if they would have obliged.
Probably not.
I think this is also good PR for Netflix. Like, oh, we stand by the people that, you know, we support.
They're like, will you forget about the Cuties thing now, please?
It cancels
One
out.
mistake.
Yeah.
Listen, we're sorry, all right? God.
We didn't know the person that like made the summary and the trailer was an ex-pedophile. Like, we didn't look at his records. We just saw the talent and we gave him the reins.
But I think on the flip side of this, not necessarily from a moral aspect, but from an entertainment aspect, it's you know, it's hard for me because I love that show. I really
Same.
want to, and I really want to watch. I mean, there's so many sketches that I'll go back to and just watch periodically because I think it's, you know, comedy brilliance. Like Black Bush is one of my favorite sketches of his of all that, like Prince, Black White Supremacists. I mean, all the classics. But then there's,
Yeah.
you know, like the smaller ones that are great too. So that whole show is fantastic, and the idea that like he would be disappointed if I was watching it does make me think twice before I click on the thing. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I.
Yeah, I think that's interesting with the whole contracts on Hollywood and how people get paid. Because there's some people who, like, they just took their check and then like the movie does amazing and they don't see much money, or, you know, they didn't really get a big percentage. Not that they're getting a big percentage anyways, but they get a very, very, very small percentage of the final, like what the movie brings in.
Yeah.
But if you get a royalty on it, you can make, if the movie does bad, it does bad. But if it does well, you can make a lot of money in recurring money. I think, isn't that how the Friends cast, they still get paid bank today? Because was it David Schwimmer? Is that Ross's character or Ross's actor? He pulled for the whole cast to get royalties, right?
I think so. Yeah, I know that they definitely get them now because they're still swimming and
Yeah, which I didn't know this at the
Yeah.
time. He was bigger than Jennifer Aniston when Friends first came out in the late '90s.
You're lying to me. No way.
But yeah,
he's like a relatively famous actor. I like the only thing I see him in now is like shitty straight to DVD movies, like the ones that Bruce Willis stars in now because he doesn't care.
he probably doesn't care. He's got all that Friends money.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I'd be like,
I wouldn't
fuck.
care either. I'd be set.
Yeah. The other thing with those royalties, you have to ask for gross profit, like cut of the gross profit. Because if you do net profit, they'll do that Hollywood accounting and be like, "Oh, we didn't make any money, so you get nothing."
Right. Yeah. No, that's interesting. You got to pick and choose your battles because I mean, I'm assuming you kind of get the option to do like one lump sum, or you get and you never know what's going to be a success. I mean, I think there's definitely a better gauge for that now. Like if you're in a Marvel movie, I'd take the royalties.
I don't even know if they would offer that to anyone who isn't an Avenger.
They wouldn't offer the royalty at this point.
Yeah.
How big they are, they'd just be like, "Well, you'll get the money we pay you on the contract," and then like our Marvel movies are like the biggest like movies of like this generation. You're gonna get exposure, so that's your royalty is more exposure.
You get paid in
more
exposure.
job. Yeah.
They made that mistake. They made that mistake with Robert Downey Jr. Now, and he got paid like whatever $50 million for the first Iron Man. That's like, we need to kill this guy
now.
Can you imagine? I mean, like I'm pretty sure that's why they canceled that fourth Iron Man movie because how much he was going to get from that was outrageous. They sort of relegated him to like, you know, Captain America: Civil War and the Avenger movies, like because they didn't want to pay him that much money.
Does he have like a contract that spans all these MCU movies?
Well, he was there from the beginning, so I think he got a much better deal because they had no idea how successful Iron Man was going to be. It's the first MCU film, so like up until this point, superhero movies were kind of hit or miss as to whether people would see them or whether they'd even be any good. They never got sequels either. Like there was always teasers in old superhero movies for sequels, and it just didn't happen. So something like Iron Man was kind of this weird fluke. And now the MCU is more like a really expensive television show than it is, a set of movies.
Yeah.
But he got paid so much money for those. It's kind of unbelievable. But that's actually a great segue. Speaking of expensive movies that Robert Downey Jr. was in, maybe superhero movies in general. But something else I wanted to talk about this week with you guys was kind of like your movie nitpicks. So if there's something in a movie, if there's like some kind of trope or maybe something you see a lot that just really makes you angry or upset, like or even turn off the movie entirely or walk out of the theater, like what would that be for you guys?
I don't think so. I have an answer for this. I don't think it's not as bad for me where I'm going to turn the movie off, but it's definitely turned me off to the genre, and it's white people in horror movie logic, where they just do the dumbest shit and then like they get surprised when the murderer kills them. And it's for that reason I don't like horror movies that much, but they just do the dumbest shit. Like you don't have to go check out that noise outside, just stay locked inside.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think they've been of the few horror movies that I've seen recently, they've tried to move away from that. Especially, I think the Ari Aster films, maybe the first Ari Aster film, Hereditary. You get a little bit of that where it's just like it's horrible shit that's happening to these people, but it doesn't seem like it's them just being like, oh, there's a noise, we'll go check it out. Like, so movies like that sort of give me hope for the future, even though the ending of that movie fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I don't think I have one, to be honest. The only there's no niche that particularly turns me off. I laugh at everything that I don't particularly like. I find the humor in everything. But there's one thing, like with movies when it comes to probably like how they pace a movie, like especially action movies, where it's like, it's like I feel like in my belief, action movies should just be pure testosterone, like throughout the movie. Like screw the fucking storyline. Like
they always have a
like,
love story.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you don't have to like do all this shit. Like, what I saw this movie fucking this weekend for the first time. Hobbs and Shaw, dude, that movie was a banging. Well, all the action scenes and all like the like high octane scenes, banging, man. Like the way like some of the action was shot and all that stuff. But then like I didn't care about the story, and whenever it slowed down to like try to like make a story, I'm just like, oh, like fuck off, man. Like I just want to see you fucking turn that motorcycle and like fucking slide under that truck. Slow motion. That's all I want to see, man. I don't want to see this dumb bullshit where it's like, will they, won't they? Like, oh, is this a love interest? Like, what's going on here? Or is this just a comedic thing that they're gonna like brush off at the end after they fight the big baddie? Like, that's the shit I hate.
It feels very 1990 when they cast like a female lead to be the love interest. You're like, God, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like this movie is not about.
It doesn't matter at all.
No, I think that's why John Wick is so good. First 2 seconds.
That's why John Wick is amazing. It's perfect. It's just like
because there's no actresses in it. Cotter, is that what you're saying?
That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is like there's no like forced motive. Like they killed his dog, so it's a relatable reason, but it's like the dumbest reason, like on paper, to like go out and kill all these dudes. Like they killed my dog, now I'm just gonna fucking kill all these guys.
It was the dog his dead wife got him.
Okay, but they didn't like turn that into a huge thing, you know? It's not.
Yeah,
like
he murdered 400 people over
that whole concept. They're not like showing like all these flashback scenes, like it's like, oh, we're gonna have 30 minutes where he's like on the beach with his wife, and then he proposes, and then like we're gonna show the love that he got, and then she finally got him the dog, and he loved that dog, and then, like, you know, and then you're just like, what? When he's gonna fucking kill these dudes? Like, that's what I want to see, man.
That's true. They get that shit over in like the first couple minutes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're like, hey, this is the backstory. This is what, like, you know, this is the motivation. Like, buckle your fucking seatbelts. We're about to go on a fucking ride. Like,
to speak to your point, though, I think it is true. You know, the story is very minimal, and like the reasoning if you were describing it to somebody, is very silly. It's like, oh, they just killed his dog, but they do a good job in like brief 2 to 3 minute scenes scattered throughout the film as to why the dog was so important, what the dog actually represents to him, which is his new life that was taken away after leaving the life of crime behind. So
yeah,
stuff like that, I'm fine with.
Yeah, that's good, and like that's what I'm saying is like you say, it's like small moments. It's not, and it doesn't break the pacing. It doesn't like pull the pacing to a stop, and then like you're just sitting there like watching all this exposition. It's just like, hey, like here's a little thing here. Let's get back to it. Here's a little thing here, and then like if you really like that stuff, you'll latch onto it, and then you'll enjoy the movie the whole way. You'll just be like, wow, so that's what, like, you'll pick up all the pieces they put down, where it's like they don't have to like stop and like hold everything. It's like, we have to talk about this for a second.
Right, but it's just like, it's icing on the cake when you get, you know, an amazing action movie that also has a relatively solid story. Like, that's just a fucking bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But that movie really has ruined like all other action movies for me, because it's hard to go into anything else, and it's not fair. But I compare it to that film. I'm like, this isn't as good as John Wick. Why would I watch this? And that's not a good mentality to have.
You're right. It's not fair. But
Connor, what are your pet peeves in movies?
Oh God, I got so many.
Can I do one last one before you go off?
Yeah, no, go for it, dude. I only really had one that I was gonna bring up.
Okay. I thought you had like a laundry list of them.
No, I'm sure I could think of more, but there was one specifically that I was thinking of. But what was your other one?
I was just gonna say, just real quick, like when you're watching a movie and like there's like some dialogue and it's like pretty quiet, pretty soft, and then like there's an action scene that immediately follows, and the sound just ear rapes the shit out of your head because it's not mixed well, and then it goes back to dialogue and it's super soft again. You're constantly changing the volume on the TV.
That's a great answer,
That's
honestly. That's infuriating.
That's annoying.
It's just like weird mixing, and I know that it's hard because every TV and every speaker system is different, so they can't really predict for everything. But like, I don't know how this is still a problem.
Like, yeah, they're just talking. They're just like, hey, we gotta go get to the waterfall and we'll make it. And then out of nowhere, you just, oh, what the fuck is that?
Like my DVDs of Indiana Jones, when I play those, the movies from like the 80s, I'm like, all right, I can excuse it. But it happens with new movies too, and it's so much more infuriating, I feel like, with when we have the technology to fix that and it's just not mixed properly.
It kind of happens
like this
with
podcast.
Yeah. It kind of happens in TV too, where like the TV show's pretty quiet and then the commercials blast your ears off.
Oh yeah.
But that's like two different things. Like a movie's all one cohesive unit, and I don't know why it's not as easy to excuse it in a movie.
They should have more control over that for sure. Like, because the TV show thing, I definitely understand. You know, the broadcast network can only control so much about what they're showing and then the commercials with it. But yeah, no, for a film, I agree. That's totally unacceptable.
Anyway, your pet peeves?
That's so much better than mine. I mean, the one I can really think of, and I think it's become a trend, not just in superhero movies, but movies in general, is when the film isn't a standalone film, is when they have these high expectations for something and they forget to tell a story in the movie that you're watching, and it just feels like a trailer for the film that's going to come next. And I think that's really annoying. Obviously you get that with superhero movies because of the comic book style layout of like, tune in next week and see what happens. But even new IPs, it feels like they're like, oh, who's this person? Who's this guy? You know, what's this thing? And they don't answer it. And, you know, even if the movie's good, it may not do well enough to get a sequel. And then you just don't get anything about it or get anything later about it. Like, and I think a good example of that is a movie that I actually enjoyed a lot, which was Alita Battle Angel. And a good chunk of that movie was setting up the world and the universe. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's based on a manga. I don't think it's an actual anime, but a lot of it was just building up this world of like all these people. It's sort of like Elysium with Matt Damon, where all the people live on Earth, and Earth is like shitty and gross. And then up in the sky, there's another city. In this case, I think it's called Zalem or Salem, something like that. And all the people, you don't actually get to see it, but you just see what it looks like. And all the people up there live really well. And, you know, and basically they just throw all their trash like off the side of the city, and then it lands on the ground and people live like that. But the second half of that movie is just setting up for a sequel. And apparently because that movie was so expensive to make, and, you know, James Cameron sort of got cold feet with it and gave it over to Robert Rodriguez, they might not actually do a sequel to it, which is a bummer because the movie ends on this crazy cliffhanger that I don't think will ever be resolved. And that like infuriates me. I'm like, just tell your own story with what you're trying to present. Like, it's become all about, you know, sequels and money and setting up franchises. And I just want to see stories. And I think you get a lot of that with like A24, like that movie company. They make a lot of sort of indie films that are just solid films on their own. Foreign films, you get a lot of those that are their own story. But American films have become very serialized, I think, which is, for the most part, I believe, in negative.
I think the point of that is like you said, it's the money and the franchising. You know, even if they're not planning on doing a sequel, well, if the movie becomes a success and people want a sequel and the sequel gets greenlighted, then, you know, if people go back and rewatch the first one and it ends on that cliffhanger, they'll be more likely to go watch the sequel. That gives us more money.
Yeah, and I should be clear in saying that, like, ending a movie on a slight cliffhanger, I don't think is inherently negative. It's when you spend a good chunk of that story, that narrative, setting up for the next movie.
Yeah.
That's where it makes me upset.
I think you can leave it on a slight cliffhanger or kind of ambiguous, you know, but the whole first movie should be at least wrapped up, even if you're planning on doing a sequel, and then just make the sequel like as equally good with the storytelling. Like, don't try and make, you know, one movie out of two.
That's pretty hard though. I don't think any movie comes to mind where it's like they have the like an equal level of world building. Usually it's like they go all in on the first movie to build up this world or like this universe, and then the second movie they're like, even though they set up for a sequel, like it's always the second movie that feels like, oh fuck, we actually didn't think this was gonna be a success. So now we're gonna slap something together, and then it's just dog shit. And you're like, God damn it.
Yeah, they I know what you mean, because like it feels like they spent all this time setting up for the next movie, and then they get their next movie and they're like, what do we do?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, what? Like, did you plan for this?
Yeah, and I think, and there's still movies out there, you know, this isn't a trend everywhere, which I think makes me even angrier about it, because if it was every single movie, then I could accept it. But something like, I don't know, like Parasite, for example, which is a fucking awesome movie. If you guys haven't, you two or anyone who's watching, if you guys haven't seen Parasite, fucking watch it. It's awesome. But that is a perfect example of a movie that is its own thing. It doesn't set up for a sequel. I think they're talking about doing like a TV show spinoff, but nothing in that movie insinuates that there will be a second movie or a spinoff TV series. It's a complete story, like bookend, beginning to end, that tells this awesome narrative, and that's the shit I want to see more of.
That was a good answer. I don't know why. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Do you have any other ones?
There's little things that bother me. I think editing in movies now is pretty dog shit. I feel like it's kind of slapped together, and no one really thinks about going back to your point, Seabass, like the pace of a movie.
Oh yeah.
It's just kind of thrown out the window. Like they're like, we shot, you know, we got 24 different shots of this. Throw it together. I don't care. Like, It feels like there's a lack of, because I think Martin Scorsese says it best, where like editing is what you see, but it's also what you don't see, and I think that's kind of a lost art.
Yeah, I think that's true.
All my pet peeves are way too like out there, and
That's all I could say was, yeah, I think that's good.
it's all like these weird, like abstract, grandiose thoughts. You guys were like, I hate when the volume's different.
Hey, I would talk about the pacing, and I thought that was pretty.
You studied this shit. I'm a more casual viewer.
Yeah.
No, and I wasn't making fun of you. I'm making fun of myself because I sound like a douchey asshole. Film isn't what it used to be. I don't know. If I think of another one that's more like I hate when my remote runs out of batteries or something.
Is that what I sound like?
No, not at all. I do hate. I don't know how the remote gets lost all the time. Like it's right next to you, and somehow it ends up like 5 feet deep inside the couch. I don't know how that happens.
I saw a
I
thing.
use my phone now.
That's true.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. You just hook it up with the Universal app or whatever.
Yeah.
I saw a thing that maybe it was on Reddit or something, and it was like your TV should have a button that like chirps the remote when it's lost. Like you can go press a button on the TV and it'll make your remote chime.
It's a great
That'd
idea.
be tight.
Like you do with your phone when you lose it.
They have I think they have little things that you can buy a remote, and then there's these little sticky things that you can put on whatever object you want, and then when you press it, it basically does that. Like it emits a sound that you can hear and go find it.
True. Stocking stuffers, Christmas is coming up.
All right. But yeah, I think those were good ones, guys. I really hadn't thought about like some more of the technical aspects as well. Chris, yours is 100%. Like I'm here for yours. I hate when that happens, when it's just so fucking loud for no reason. That's the Blade Runner thing, because that movie is just very loud drums and then people whispering softly to each other. What was the I'm very unprofessional. What was the third thing we were supposed to talk about? Oh, the James Bond movies, right?
No,
we're gonna
talk about my mystery topic.
Oh, right, yeah, we're gonna do that first. Okay, I forgot. I'm sorry, Seabass.
This is drunk.
I always take 3 shots before the podcast.
Yeah, gotta loosen yourself up.
All right, so I wanted to talk about the recent news on HBO Max, because I know we talked about this topic last time I was on here. We talked about how movies are looking like they might go all digital, and HBO Max just made this big move with a bunch of titles that they have acquired, and they decided to release it on HBO Max exclusively.
Exclusively or with?
I'm pretty sure it's exclusively.
Too.
It's both. So you can, if you have the subscription, you can watch it there. But if you want to go to the theater, you can also see it there too.
Okay. But yeah, so I think that's a major move. Like, and the titles they have lined up are also like really good. So I think they're killing it right now, and I think other companies are going to start to like follow suit, or they're going to watch this very closely to see like how it works out, and probably start to like be in the talks to acquire some IPs too for movies. Like, hey, like you're going to exclusively stream on our platform. What do you guys think?
So to be clear, I think you're talking about the Warner Media thing. So it's Wonder Woman, 1984, Dune. Basically every Warner Media movie that's coming out is coming to HBO, right? Okay.
This is a really good topic, because this was my filler topic. if we ran out of topics to talk about.
Oh, really?
Well, actually, specifically, I was going to talk about how George Lucas and Steven Spielberg actually predicted like this big streaming like wave like 7 years ago or so, because they saw what Netflix was doing with streaming.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg was not happy about that. He's made a lot of comments about how movies that go straight to Netflix or go straight to VOD shouldn't be considered for Oscars, and it's the ramblings of a cranky old man.
Yeah, yeah. Old school.
I think
Just
it's
like you,
cool that
Connor.
I think it's cool that they're doing it though. You know, I think there's no better time with the pandemic. You know.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. One thing that I saw that was interesting about that, because I think me and pretty much everybody else who saw that had the same thought, which was, oh, well, when those movies come out, like when Wonder Woman comes out, I'm going to get that 1 week free trial, and then I'm just going to cancel it immediately after. And then I can make, every time a new movie comes out, I can do that. And apparently they thought of us. So if you try to watch, you can't watch any of the new releases like up to a certain point for the amount of time that it's on there if you have the free trial. So you have to pay so you at least have to pay $14.99 because that's how much it is a month. So you would still consider it like a full movie ticket because you're basically
that's
paying
a
for
full
Wonder
movie.
Woman.
So if you have the free trial, you can't watch the new releases.
Yeah,
No.
so for the movies that are also going to theaters, so TV shows and stuff you can, but anything that's going to be at like AMC or Cinemark, you can't do that.
That makes sense. This is not going to stop me from making 7 new email addresses for the old stuff.
For sure. But I think it's great, man, and especially they're starting off real strong because they have Wonder Woman coming out on Christmas Day, so nobody's gonna be going to the movies. They're just gonna be like, hey, let's just all get together and watch this. So their streams are gonna be through the roof. Their like viewership, subscribers, it's gonna be all the way up there. The only thing I'm worried about is that's like it's the perfect launch day and the perfect situation. So it's obviously gonna spike down after Christmas. So we'll have to like wait and see. And that's what I mean by like other like streaming services are probably gonna watch with a close eye to see how this like works out and to see how many people still go to movie theaters, or is the streams just gonna start taking over?
That's an interesting point because like I imagine one of the movie company CEOs is going to be like, well, Wonder Woman did really well on Christmas, so I'm sure my shitty indie movie is going to do really well in March.
Yeah. Exactly.
They'll take away the wrong thing from it. Yeah, I don't know. I also I kind of want to make an addendum to what I said before because it almost sounded like when we were talking about this last time that I was excited for theaters to go away. Like I was like, oh, I can't wait for them to go bankrupt, and that's not true at all. Because I really like the theater experience. I've been going to them since I was little. I'm sure all of us have, and just like sitting in that that tiny ass seat with your snacks and watching it on the big screen. That's like a whole experience for me, and it really I think it makes movies more memorable, even the shitty ones. So like that, I really hope that movie theaters are able to survive this. I was just saying before that if what is going to happen looks like it's going to happen now that Warner has put this out, it looks like it that this could be the beginning of the end for the theater chains.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty sad when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the end if the pandemic and like all the regulations surrounding that are lifted, like say, I don't know, 4 to 6 months from now, and we can like start going back to theaters?
I think.
Do you think basically what I'm asking? Do you think if COVID ends soon, do you think the industry will walk this back?
I think to a certain extent they will, but it's kind of like a dam bursting. I think once it's you can kind of rebuild it a little bit, but that water's going to keep flowing. Stuff's going to get through the cracks. And I think a big factor was supposed to be this holiday season because not only did theaters really only have one movie coming out because none of the Marvel stuff's coming in December, they really only had Wonder Woman to look forward to. And now they hear from HBO Max that it's going to be available to everybody at their house. Like the movie theaters are sweating, and this was a really, really important season for them to kind of get back up on their feet. And it just feels like they got another rung kicked out from underneath them.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. Do you know if any like big chains have been closing or anything like that? Like last time we talked about AMC and Cinemark.
Yeah, other than that, I think it's remained the same. But yeah, they said they were going to close indefinitely, which that's not a good sign. I hope that this is it, because I mean, realistically, on a realistic timeline, it's probably going to be at least a year before this pandemic is under control and we're able to feel safe going back into a theater.
I was being optimistic.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it could be, let's say, because it realistically, it could happen in 6 months. And if that's the case, then I think definitely you'll see it bounce back, and you'll see, these movies start to return to theaters, because there are still movies in theaters right now. It's mostly old movies and like 1 or 2 films that not really that many people were going to see anyway. So they're just going to put them out there. But, if it's a year, 2 years from now, I don't know.
Do you think movie theaters will become more of like a luxury? It's not going to be it's not going to be like a commonplace anymore. It's just going to be like, hey, we'll release it in movie theaters and a streaming platform. So if you want to just stream it, you can. But like, if you want to go see it in IMAX, you can. And if that happens, it's going to become more of a luxury, because definitely you're going to have to pay even more for that experience, because it's going to be, less people coming in. So you got to make up that income somewhere.
I think people already view movies as too expensive. And I think if they try and increase prices to stay afloat, it's not going to bode well for them.
I like that idea though, Seabass, because that is interesting. If you turn a movie theater experience into like a 4D ride at Busch Gardens or something, like where you put in new speakers, you put in a bigger screen, you add like effects that have like maybe not like the crazy Busch Gardens stuff where like it sprays water at you, but like some kind of experience where the seats move around, or something that you can only experience with that movie in theaters. They started to do that with like Cinemark XD and the Dolby Vision seats or whatever, the D-Box seats at certain places. So maybe they'll expand that, because that so far has been a pretty successful part of their business. So if they expand that and do make it more of a luxury, it'll be interesting to see how many people will be willing to spend more money to go to a theater if they're going to be less people, but it is going to be more of a luxury experience.
Would you buy a more expensive ticket for that?
Yeah, definitely. Because especially for like, I went to go see, the first time I saw Spider-Verse was in Cinemark XD, and it had these like, I think they said it was like 90 to 120 speakers on the side, and the screen showed like 4 million colors, or they have all the marketing stuff beforehand on the screen. But goddamn, if it wasn't an awesome experience, and watching it anywhere else is, I mean, obviously that movie's great, but it's disappointing because you're like, fuck, I saw it that one time and it was so good. So I think I would be willing to put down the money. But how about you guys? Would you be willing to pay more for seats like that?
100%. I already do. I don't mind if I have to pay an extra like $5 on top of that, to be honest.
Maybe. I think it would have to be the right movie, and I'm not sure. You already know my stance on. Actually, you know what? If they made it more of a luxury and gave us more legroom, maybe I would pay more for more legroom.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like they
yeah, they're still gonna be spaced out and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll be spaced out, but maybe there's only like 20 seats in there.
You know what?
They could charge more, but
that's true, and you don't have people right next to you talking the whole time.
Yeah,
you can comfortably whisper to the person next to you.
Yeah, it would kind of almost be like your own little space.
Yeah.
I think we might,
I was shitting on this before, but maybe I'm on board.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is a really viable option. But I mean, obviously, there's not a ton of money in theaters to be doing like massive renovations right now. But if you just take whatever theaters you have that are, because most theaters have like that sort of thing, like an IMAX screen or something. If you just spruce that up a little bit, like you could, I think you could really start appealing to, a niche of the movie-going audience.
I have an idea. What if we took 2, quote unquote, dying because of the pandemic industries? We take movie theaters and strippers, and we combine them.
You're on something.
Great idea. So, like halfway through the movie, there's a stripper intermission.
Yeah. Or just strippers that will go refill your popcorn or drinks for you, so you don't have to get up and leave.
Who's gonna pay the strippers? Us?
Oh, you got to tip them. Come on now, don't be cheap.
Dude, that's a great idea. The theater around here, the theater I actually worked at, they did that, so they would bring it, like, you could order full meals and then they'd bring it to you, so it's more like a restaurant style thing. But if you just took that and turned it into like a Hooters.
I love the thought of like some like, you know, very Christian like husband and wife taking their kids to go see like Wally or some shit. And a stripper comes, gives them his candy.
That's what you do with the IMAX rooms. You make them like stripper. That's how we spruce it up. I think we just saved the movie industry, boys.
Yeah, give me my peanut M&Ms while I'm watching Big Hero 6 or whatever. Like Ralph.
I think Joey and I always had that idea of like buying out a movie theater and turning it into a strip club. Just because I think that, but more like a burlesque, I guess. But if you find an abandoned movie theater, like the stages, the seating, everything's already there. Like all you have to do is add some more, you know, exotic sort of decorations and shit like that. Hire the dancers, and you're good to go.
We'll see about that. I don't think it's that easy.
Well, no, there's probably more overhead than that. I'm oversimplifying, but I think in the long run, you know, there was an abandoned movie theater by where we lived, and we were like, we're gonna do this someday. Unfortunately, they tore it down, but
there were no gentlemen's clubs in that area either.
No, there was nothing. There really isn't a lot in this area anyway. Like not just there, just in general.
Well, the state you're in is a little stricter, isn't it? Like you can't have topless.
Yeah. So, well, no, you can have. I guess we're getting into this now.
This wasn't on the agenda.
You can have. So the one strip club that I went to was it was full nude, but in Virginia you're not allowed to drink alcohol.
Oh.
So that's like the one, and it's horrible. It's so. Like I mean, just being sober at a strip club in general is weird, but like, just sitting there being like stiff as a board, like,
stiff as a board 2 ways.
I mean, I don't know.
You gotta chug Mad Dogs in the parking lot and then go in.
Yeah, that's the optimal experience.
That seemed to be because I didn't know until we got there. So we all piled in, and then like they told us, like basically as we were getting welcomed, I guess, they gave us the rules, and they were like, yeah, we have water and we have Perrier, and that's all we have in there.
No juice?
Like, Perrier, what?
They're just trying to hydrate you? Like they think you're gonna bust all over the stripper.
You were allowed to smoke in there. I remember that, but that was it.
Okay, that makes sense. But
yeah, so I think if it's just a topless bar, here you're allowed to drink. I don't know about anywhere else, but in Virginia you're allowed to drink there. But if it's full nude, you can't. And I think that's state or countrywide.
Wow, what a bunch of lamos.
Yeah, right.
Rules are rules.
Yeah, it was a miserable experience. That whole story is for, I guess, it can be told on a different podcast, but that was a nightmare situation. Don't go to strip clubs, kids. They're sad and depressing.
In certain states.
What did you say?
I said in certain states.
Oh, in certain states. I just meant in general.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, something has to be going on if it's not for a bachelor party and you're just going.
No, it's just sad. It's just a sad experience.
You walk in, you spend all your money, then you go to the KFC across the street, drive home.
Isn't there a scene in like Parks and Rec where Ron Swanson goes to a strip club and he just like devours the unlimited breakfast buffet or whatever they had there?
There's a scene of him like the stripping music is playing in the background, but he's like throwing bacon on his plate. And, like, I wish that was the experience we had. That would have been way better.
Yeah, they didn't even have milk.
No, it's just fucking water. What is this?
Yeah.
So, speaking of strippers, James Bond is free on YouTube. So, yes. So that's definitely cool. I think it's neat that they you said it was the first 19, right, Chris? So like basically Brosnan down pretty much.
Yeah, I think there was one Connery one maybe, or one Out of Order. I don't remember. It's like 19 or 20, but they're all on YouTube for free. You have to pay for like the newer ones like Skyfall and stuff like that, but
Is that with the YouTube Premium account, or is it just like any you can get anything for
nope,
free?
you can go to the YouTube Movies channel and they're all on there.
That's cool. I haven't
Good
seen a
move.
single James Bond movie, so I'm definitely gonna check that out.
I tried to
Me
watch
neither.
them all. I tried to watch them all like a couple years ago and stopped because it's a lot of movies. But I got through like 7 or something like that. I started from like the oldest ones too. So maybe I'll have to give this a go again. But
I'll have to look into it because I've heard that some of them are pretty bad. So
yeah,
maybe I'll look into like which ones are worth watching. And then go up to it because I kind of lied. I saw like the first half of Casino Royale because I was watching it at a friend's house when it came on Netflix, and that movie is fucking awesome. Like it is so good, and I actually really want to finish it. But like if the
Wait,
rest
you
of them,
actually haven't seen a single James Bond movie?
no, I just saw the first half of that one, but that's legitimately it.
What? I thought you were just talking about the old ones.
No, I haven't seen anything. And there's a new one coming out too. No Time to Die, I think.
That's not for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out this year, but now who knows?
They pushed it back a lot. Yeah.
I haven't seen any of the recent ones. I haven't really cared.
That's fair.
I can't remember them, but like I can remember like the general gist of the story, and they're just good movies to watch.
Yeah,
Do you guys have a favorite Bond?
Connery, because that's really all I know. minus
I only know
the sexism that didn't age very well.
Or the
I mean,
one open-handed slap to the face?
I've never seen the older movies. I only saw all the Daniel Craig ones. So
I guess by default, he
by
wins.
default, Daniel Craig. Michael B. Jordan. I saw that one. No, I'm just kidding.
I think there was talks for Idris Elba for a while, which I think would have been an awesome choice.
Mm-hmm. I think they have to be British, right, to be a Bond. Isn't that like the unwritten
Is that the
rule?
law? Is that the?
I don't know if it's not the law, but like I think that the studios won't cast anyone who isn't British.
Is Pierce Brosnan British?
That's what I was thinking about before we started this. When I was thinking about that, I was like, was he British? I don't think so.
Wait, who?
Let's look it up.
Pierce Brosnan was one of the Bonds. This is gonna sound weird, but I'm trying to remember his voice on Thomas the Tank Engine because he was the
he was born in Ireland.
Okay. So he's
isn't British, but it's close enough, I think.
Because that's really all they got for the conductors on Thomas the Tank. I used to watch a lot of that with my brother, which that show is awesome, by the way, the old one. But it was like Ringo Starr, George Carlin, which I guess George Carlin isn't British, but yeah, like the people they're pretty big stars that they got for Thomas the Tank Engine. But I was trying to remember Pierce Brosnan's voice. I couldn't think of it.
I'm more of a JJ the Jet Plane kind of guy.
Brosnan.
What did you just say to me?
What? I was gonna say Brosnan still has dual citizenship in Ireland and the U.S. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
So, you guys ever play GoldenEye back in the day?
I did. Yeah.
Did you?
I played it a little bit. I played it at a friend's house very briefly, but it was awesome. I love that game.
I never played it, but I know it's like a timeless classic.
Yeah. Well, you play it now, it's a little rough, but
yeah,
you can see the appeal for sure. Like you understand why it was as important as it was.
People still speed run that, right?
Yeah, they do. They speed run that, and I think not only that, but the multiplayer was just so instrumental. Like without that, you wouldn't have Halo split screen, Call of Duty split screen. Like it paved the way for first person shooter multiplayer that we have now.
I played Quantum of Solace back in the day, multiplayer, like online. That was like one of the first games I ever played online. It was dope.
Yeah, that was great too because they introduced a lot of stuff or they brought back a lot of stuff from GoldenEye, like Gun Game and Golden Gun, which are two of like the best online shooter game modes ever created.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an excellent segue into our next topic, which is going to be the new James Bond game that just got announced. There was a brief teaser, and it's going to be made by IO Entertainment and I think Square Enix, which are both the people who make the Hitman series.
Yeah, it's from the same people who make Hitman. Because when I was reading the article, I saw something about that. Because weren't they gearing up for another Hitman game?
Yeah, Hitman 3 is going to be coming out pretty soon for, I think, exclusively next gen.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't think of anybody better to handle the Bond license. Like that seemed like I feel like that's going to go perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they said that it's like a spring 2022 release, so like a year and a half from now.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hot minute. I'm sure all they have is like pre-alpha footage, but I'm excited. I think it's gonna tell like a whole new story. There'll be somebody else cast as Bond. I think under the right, with the right development, I think it's definitely gonna be a good game.
It's definitely one that's on my radar, at least.
What platform is it on, though?
I think it's gonna be on next gen. Like it'll be Series X, PS5, and then PC.
Okay. I thought it was VR too. I could have sworn I read something about VR.
It might be. That would actually be a pretty good idea if that's what they're. I don't know because we don't really know anything about it. If it's going to be third person or first person, or if it's going to be a weird combination of the two, like Quantum of Solace was. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like you said, if it's being made by the same people that made Hitman, like there's honestly, I have no worries that it will be a great game because I haven't played many of the Hitman games, but I did play like the newer one that was like free, and you just paid for the missions, and that shit was spicy.
Yeah, I think if they do it in the style of Hitman, that'd be interesting too. Because as far as I know, there hasn't really been an open world Bond game up to this point. So if they just drop you on an island, they're like, "Hey, here's your target. He's got sensitive intel. Steal the intel, kill him, and leave." Like they basically do it like a Hitman mission, but maybe a little bit more structured. I think that would be really fun for a Bond game.
Yeah, make a story mode, and then for replayability, they could. A really good idea would be to do like randomly generated targets, where it's like they just, like you said, they just plop you on a map, and they're like, "Hey, this is your target. Like, choose the best way to take them out."
Yeah, that's a great episodic kind of like Hitman does now. But obviously, the most important thing they have to bring over is the multiplayer. Like they need to have all of those old modes, gun game, golden gun, team deathmatch, all of that they have to bring back, and it'll be nice to play a Bond game that actually has like a fan base behind it, where you can actually get into a lobby and find matches. That'll be fun.
I'm excited for it.
It'll be. I don't know if we can get. I don't know if I'm excited, but I'm definitely interested. I just need to see more.
Yeah, that's true. IO isn't always perfect, so Hitman Absolution is a pretty bad game. So
Yeah.
That's the only Hitman I've played.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you're missing out. You gotta play Blood Money. That game's the best.
Blood Money. I'll look into it.
That's definitely the best one. That's kind of what I'm hoping for this James Bond. Maybe not as goofy as that game is, but something similar to that in terms of like how you eliminate targets. I think would be really cool.
What are your thoughts on I think this is a good segue into something else, but what are your thoughts on like video game movie adaptations? Or like like a movie being turned into a video game. More like I feel like there's like some good ones, but it's the line is very when you look at it, when you watch a movie, you're like, this would be great as a video game or like a TV series. This would be great as a video game. But it's like none of them can translate it. Like when you do it like scene by scene, and then you add gameplay elements to it, it's just a shitty game. And then obviously like they don't really put that much into production. But like some games like do it right, where it's like, hey, it's in the universe and it has that backstory, and there are those scenes in this game, but it's a whole nother like side of the story. I think those games like are like, I feel like should be what we look at when you're trying to make like an adaptation.
And I miss that from like that period from, I don't know, maybe 2002 to 2010.
The old Spider-Man PS2 games. Ooh.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Where companies just went balls to the wall with these movie tie-in games. Like every single film that came out, it could have been a romantic comedy with Drew Barrymore. They made a video game adaptation of it. And I kind of missed that because there was, clearly a lot of garbage, but there were some gems in there, and it sort of forced game companies to be on this time crunch and try new ideas, because it takes a lot longer to make a video game than it does to make a movie. So they were like, again, a lot of them were shitty, but they were scrambling. They were like, all right, what if we do this? What if we do this? What if we combine these game mechanics? And it led to some really interesting ideas. And now you get, one game that's it's not based on a single movie, but it's based on a series. So like Star Wars gets Battlefront 2, and instead of having new crazy ideas or trying something innovative, it's like, hey, we're just going to microtransaction the hell out of it and call it a day. So yeah. I miss the Wild West of movie tie-in games. Like I hope we're able to get back to that point.
I remember, well, they even with TV shows, because I remember I had a Lost video game like on the 360.
Mm-hmm.
You play different episodes of it. I don't remember how good it was, but
it was, I don't know how I remember this, but it was Lost via Domus.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that too. I don't know how. And I think I also played. It was like a movie for like Peter Jackson's like King Kong or whatever movie that was.
I think I remember that game. I had it on the GameCube, I'm pretty sure.
I think I had it on the DS and the 360. So I think I 100%ed it on the 360 because it was like such a shitty and easy game.
Yeah.
It was literally like you just beat the missions and you get like all the achievements, and then there's no side missions or collectibles or anything like that. It's like just play basically what the movie is.
What a stark difference between the versions you had. It's like saying, hey, I have one person has an iPhone and one person has an iPhone that's drawn on cardboard.
Yeah, I feel like they should definitely look into like bringing some of those back, man. Those are fucking nice. Well, I think in the age we are now, I think it's honestly better, where it's like they did a great job on the movie, and they don't like copy it. They just like they take that universe, or they'll mold a universe based off of another universe, and they'll be like, this is like our own like love child. And I think it brings up the point that you were talking about, where back then it used to be the Wild West, because you're making a true adaptation with like some extra gameplay elements to it. So back then you're like, fuck, like the movie is releasing, we gotta release our game like by the time, like within a month or two that the movie comes out, because if you release it after that, nobody's gonna give a shit.
Right.
Like, you gotta ride the hype when the movie comes out. You're like, that movie was sick, the game's gonna be sick, let me go buy that right now. So like, but nowadays, like, it's more lenient. It's like, this is a great movie, they had great ideas, let's make a game based off of this. And then like they use that time to like flesh it out into their own thing. But you can definitely feel all the inspiration they got from like the movie.
And you're going to get with those games that are more general, now you're going to get better graphics, you're going to get, better performance, better this, better that, newer consoles. But can you sit here and tell me with a straight face that Marvel's Avengers is better than Hulk Ultimate Destruction?
Stop.
It's just
Ultimate Destruction was the
best. No, it was. And it was because, when you have time limits like that, you have to just be like, all right, we're going to put Hulk in a city and he's going to blow up everything.
Blow up everything, dude. Oh, those Hulk games. The Hulk movie games were so fun, too.
Yeah, no, they really were. And I didn't feel any of that playing it. Marvel's Avengers is obviously a terrible game. Soulless cash grab. I could talk about it forever. but you don't feel that same way with Hulk. It just feels like another Avengers character that they had to throw in this live service game. And that's a bummer because playing as the Hulk should be fun. It should be like Ultimate Destruction, where you can pick up 2 cars, split them in half, and make fists out of it. And like you
That
can't.
was so fun, dude. You just that whole game. You're just aimlessly destroying things, and then eventually, like, you get a story, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm fighting Abomination now. That was like the
best. You've been destroying things for hours. You're like, this game has cutscenes.
Yeah. Oh, that game was amazing. Oh, now we're gonna play that. I'm gonna go plug the PS2 in.
I have the 360 hooked up in case I ever want to play the old original Xbox games in HD.
Oh, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about that for a second because it was on my mind after you guys brought up 007 because it's just like.
No, I miss it, and obviously games are so much more expensive to make now because the stuff that they have to put in them is just absolutely insane. It costs as much as a AAA Hollywood movie, so you can't really afford to. When THQ was still around, they could afford to spend a couple $100,000 on a game, have it flop, and then they're like, oh well, we'll try again with the next 75 games. But now each studio gets 1 a year, maybe 2.
Yeah.
So you have to be more careful. You have to be more calculated, and you have to make sure that game is microtransactioned up the asshole so it makes all its money back. So it's a weird time.
Weird.
For
You're not
games.
salty. You're not salty at all.
No, dude, I agree with Connor. It's a weird time where it's like all of the console like experiences are starting to turn into like gotcha grabs, which is like, have you ever heard of that term? Like gotcha games on like phones, where it's like you can pay to earn like more characters or like more cards and stuff like that. But like they'll be like, oh, but you can do it for free. But like if you want more time to grind, you got to pay for it, or you got to wait 24 hours. Like you have to do all this work to grind these new characters that come out, and then that's what they're doing with like I would say with Marvel's Avengers. It's like, hey, we have this cool idea of this game, but like if you want to really enjoy the experience, you got to put a little cash in there.
Yeah, and the battle pass system in that game is absurd. It's like one for every single character, which blows my mind that they're allowed to do that.
They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I tried to boot it up today. It crashed on me. I tried again, and it did the infinite load thing, and I was like, I'm never turning this game on again.
That's $60 ever spent.
It's a broken piece of shit. I'm like, I'll get Cyberpunk in 5 days. I'll never touch this game again.
Well, we're a little bit over.
Okay, yeah. You wanna wrap it up?
Yeah.
Or I guess I have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I don't know why I asked you. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate you guys sticking through. We're gonna have no spoilers, but we're gonna have a couple special things planned for the holiday episode because it just so happens that we're gonna coincide with our 10th episode being on Christmas. So I think we have a few things in the works. One of the things I think we can say now, we can kind of start to gather some stuff. But what we want to do is get a bunch of questions from you guys. And then a good portion of that episode is just going to be us answering that and, maybe trying to get a little goofy with it. So we're going to, that'll be like kind of the Christmas spectacular, the Star Wars holiday special of the Split Screen Media podcast. That's incredible. So yeah, other than that, all of our stuff is on all the music streaming services. If you guys don't want to see us and just want to listen to us, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, basically anywhere where you can find podcasts are on. I hope that you guys, like and subscribe if you want more, and we really appreciate it. So thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Bye.